Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Elmer.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I feel good. I feel very blessed to be safe and healthy, and my family is safe and healthy, so I feel good. Thank you.
So,
I
I
hope you're doing well.
well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I am similarly very fortunate that although some of the illness of this crisis has come very, very close to my network, it has not struck my family yet. Um, but I am certain that by the end of this, and if not already, all of us will have personal stories of folks whose lives have been concluded too early. But I suspect, given your role and your central role, uh, that you're getting a lot of information and you're hearing a lot of stories about the impact of the shutdown. Do you mind just sharing one or two that have struck you as uh, particularly, you know, impactful or have really illuminated how this truly affects our community?
Well, I think as lucky as I and my husband and family are, I think the impact of this is touching us all. I can say that from our Greater Milwaukee Foundation staff family, we have had a number of people who have had the symptoms of COVID-19 who have had to take time off. And we have had one confirmed in hospitalization. So it is very close to my family. It is my family in that sense. And the impact on the neighborhoods that we work in, the residents we work with, and the nonprofit sector is very stark. It's very frightening. And it is very concerning about how they are going to continue to provide the necessary services to our community.
One of the things that I'm so proud of you for doing is responding so quickly with MKE Responds Fund. Can you tell us about how that came to be and how it's working?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The MKE Response Fund really came out of the really escalation of the crisis so quickly. So we had the opportunity to go to our board really in the middle of March to say we need to establish a fund and we need to invite others to join us. So we did that. We capitalized a fund and then invited a number of corporate philanthropic partners to join us, and the response was tremendous. And our individual donors at the foundation have been very generous in supporting the fund.
And what are you using the funds to address?
So the funds are really about urgent needs: food, shelter, housing, health, mental health, education, and early childhood education. And it's really meant to address the urgency of the pandemic that is upon us. We have actually organized what we are referring to as civic response teams, which are organized around those issues. So there are probably 100 people organized in those teams to really make sure that the resources, both donated goods, financial resources, volunteer resources, are going to the places where they're needed most.
That is so meaningful. So one of the things that I've even talked to my own team about is when we talk about basic needs, we immediately go to food, we go to shelter. In this instance, we go to things like PPE and even testing. But there seems to be a spectrum of other things that we might not quickly understand as basic needs. Do any of those come to mind? I'll give you an example. One of my teammates talked about how easy it is to categorize uh, women and mothers needing food for their families. But access to feminine hygiene products are so important and should not be forgotten in times like this. Anything else come to mind for you?
Well, absolutely, Elmer. I mean, things that are common to someone like me that I have access to are not available to many people. So things like diapers, hand sanitizer, which is so essential at this period of time. We had a donor who donated a drum of hand sanitizer from his business that is now being repackaged and distributed across the community. So that is what these civic response teams are doing. They are taking, in some cases, donated goods, figuring out the logistics to get them to the places where they're needed most, and solving some pretty complex problems in the meantime.
I'd love to hear that. You know, GMF is an important funder of so many programs around the community. What is happening to the support that you would normally be contributing to those many, many organizations?
Well, we have not disrupted our grant making. In fact, when we have had a cycle in process right now, we have a responsive cycle, and we have proceeded with that. We have tried to provide as much flexibility in the current grants that we have awarded to have people who say, use this for the needs that you have now to continue your operations. And we have continued our focus on serving underserved and communities of color very strategically.
You know, Ellen, you're not a Milwaukee native, is that right?
That's right. I've
And
been here 10 years.
10 years, okay. And I'm not a native as well. And I think there's some benefit because we have a perspective on this community that we have embraced so lovingly. I'd love to hear, how do you think the response in this moment has been uniquely Milwaukee? What are you seeing as such a central community leader that feels distinct for this place?
Well, I think what's so inspiring about Milwaukee, and it didn't take this crisis to prove it to me, is first of all, the generosity of Milwaukeeans and the pride that people have in this community, and the fact that they want it to continue to thrive for everyone. So the generosity that's represented in a philanthropic organization like the Greater Milwaukee Foundation over 100 years has contributed so much to the health and vitality of this community. And I would say that that continues and even accelerates during a moment of crisis like this. So it's not only money. Money is very important because we have to buy things like diapers and feminine hygiene products and masks and food and other essential goods for people. But it is the ingenuity and the not only giving of resources, but time and talent to solve some of these very complex problems.
I
I love about Milwaukee.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, you know, we've all had to accommodate ourselves with a new work style, working from home, working from, you know, bedrooms. How are you maintaining your organization, you know, and your management structure? How are you leading your team with this distancing thing?
Well, I am so blessed to have a fabulous team at the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. We moved remotely relatively quickly. 61 people moved remotely within a week. And I would say, unlike some international companies who have worked like this forever, we were not set up to do that. So I have to thank our team who enabled us to move so quickly to a remote platform and get us all set up. My leadership team meets daily to talk about how things are going, how our team is doing. We have regular staff meetings. We try and we have kept our operations going for our entire staff, and they are engaged not only in our Milwaukee Responds effort, but certainly helping donors contribute to the needs of the community, whether it responds to the crisis or whether it responds to other things. So our general philanthropic operations are ongoing, and we are in connection all the time. We had an all-staff meeting the other day, 61 people on Zoom, all reporting about how they are doing in their home offices, all very committed to our mission, and ending with a dance party. Have to have some fun during this period of time.
Was that a recorded Zoom?
It was, we had one of our staff people had some music playing at the end, and that's sort of how we end the meeting.
I love that. So one of the things I've asked a few of the other members I've spoken to is, what have you been listening to? What have you been watching and reading?
Like this, you can't get enough information. So I am reading and watching everything I can get my hands on, starting with all of our local briefings from the mayor's office, from the medical college, from the national news, from the local news. I'm reading what's going on in philanthropy across the country, what the CDC is saying. And I have to say that one of the most wonderful briefings that I had recently was from the GMC's recent meeting, where it started at the top with the governor and Secretary Hughes from the WEDC, and then continued on with Dr. John Raymond and Jonas Priesing and Ryan Parson, and then ended with Mary Ellen Stanek. It was the most comprehensive view of what our community is facing from a medical, from a governmental sector, what it will take to get our economy open again, where we are with regard to the curve in the flattening the curve, from an economic point of view, from a legal point of view, from Jonas's perspective, having lived through this and operated a business internationally, and understanding what the phases of recovery are when you go back to work. I thought it was spectacular. So that's on my hit list.
I am grateful for you saying that, and I'm so confident that our whole team will be elated when they see you say that, because certainly Heather and Julia and everyone else, we worked really hard to get that together. And I do think they deserve kudos.
Excellent. And I have shared it. I know it's just for the GMC members, but I have shared both the slides and the video with several people because I thought it was so excellent.
I think that's okay. So I should ask you, you do have an audience of your GMC peers. What's the information they should hear from you? And frankly, what's the call to action that you would offer at this moment?
Well, I think it's natural for people to take some time to assess their own wellness, their own family's wellness, their own business wellness, everything. I think everybody had to sort of assess where they are personally before they can move forward. I know that we had some time doing that, but I also think that we have to come together and move forward, not only in making sure that that our community comes through this crisis healthy and remains focused on flattening and reducing the curve, but also that we approach the pivot to recovery very importantly and strategically. The Greater Milwaukee Foundation has been focused since 2015 on certainly inspiring philanthropy wherever our donors want to contribute for the health and vitality of this community. But we have also been very strategically focused on advancing racial equity in this community. And we have to maintain that focus coming out of this crisis. Because in my opinion, What this crisis has done is really laid bare what some of the inequities have produced in our community. And if we do not address the systems that produce that inequity, and it's not just in healthcare, we will cement our future going forward for communities of color. So I know that you all know that we are involved in a project with the medical college, where we are moving not only our offices, but we have a project that is focused on the social determinants of health, located on Martin Luther King Drive. Medical College and the Greater Milwaukee Foundation are committed more than ever to advancing that project, because coming out of this, it is as important as ever, perhaps more importantly, that we have to invest in underinvested communities.
Ellen, I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing a prediction and an aspiration. The prediction is, how do you see this moment affecting the sort of the ecosystem of philanthropy in Milwaukee? And then after that, I would love to hear how you hope we can respond to this as a community, especially as it relates to philanthropy in Milwaukee.
So I think, so aspiration and hope, was that the question?
Well, your prediction and then your hope.
So my prediction and hope. The prediction is a little hard in the sense that I think everybody is trying to determine what this looks like on the other side. I think that the resilience of Milwaukee has withstood the test of time. And many of the institutions like the Greater Milwaukee Foundation and the spirit of philanthropy and the spirit of ingenuity will continue. And we will get through this crisis, and we will come out stronger, as every person in this community who has withstood a crisis understands. We will get to the other side. When, I don't know exactly how specifically we will, but I can see the other side. And so I think it's important for us to begin now to think about the pivot. What does the pivot look like? And what is the opportunity for Milwaukee to address some of the longstanding issues that have gone unaddressed, that have become apparent in this crisis? And what can we learn coming into it that we can apply on the other side?
I'm so happy that you brought up your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that this crisis has really, to use your word, laid bare the tragic inequities that so many in our community face. I expect and I really hope that in our intermediate future, that we will consider ourselves a Milwaukee renewed, and we will really shape ourselves to be, as wonderful a city as we can be. And instead of focusing on how we are the best kept secret, so I want to be less of a secret, but stay the best.
Well, I would agree with that. So I think Milwaukee is absolutely a jewel of a city. And I think in some ways it is one of the best kept secrets. Unfortunately, some of the reputation of Milwaukee is not really what we want to showcase. So I think this is our opportunity. It is a moment in time where we can be what we aspire to be as a community. And I think this is the moment where we're going to shine. It's not going to be, some people shine at the top of their game, and some people shine when they work through adversity. And I think Milwaukee is the kind of community that can shine at working through adversity and coming out the other end as a shining star for how people address these kinds of things.
I love it. So as we wrap, I'm going to ask you one wild card question. In the next few months, things will return. It's going to take a little while. Things will return to a new normal. Restaurants will reopen.
Yep.
What are you really excited to go and eat when you can?
Well, so Milwaukee has so many wonderful assets that I can't wait to get outside and enjoy again. One of the assets that still remains is getting outside and looking at the lake and seeing the waterfront and walking in parks, and that is terrific. Mask and all, I'm out there every day walking outside. The restaurant scene in Milwaukee, the arts scene, the opportunity to, that is the hidden gem of Milwaukee. And so when I think about what I hope to eat and where I hope to go, I'd like to enjoy some, I'd like to go to the Rep and see a play. I love all the restaurants. It's hard to name one that I love because my husband and I are foodies. And so we definitely we frequent a lot of neighborhood restaurants on a regular basis. So we're saving a lot of money during this period of time, even though we're trying to support our local restaurants, but we're looking forward to probably some ethnic food of some sort that we aren't able to cook ourselves.
That sounds delicious. I am really jonesing for a burger.
Well, you can get that.
I can, but yeah, I might do that sooner than later. Ellen, thank you so much for making some time to talk to us. I'm really looking forward to having an opportunity to be with you in person as soon as possible.
Well, thank you, Elmer. It's wonderful to see you even on the small, big screen. And I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and wish you all the best. And we'll get through this and we'll meet in person soon.
Soon.